This week's episode of Steins Gate Zero is one of the most interesting and fascinating episodes of the entire franchise, for the anime at least. This episode did not go where I was expecting. I was expecting after episode 19, the Shattering, maybe they went back a little too far, and then when we start this episode off and we see Okabe just very kind of shriveled up as if he's been out for so long, and we see the destroyed world showing us that this is actually 2036. Like, I was not expecting this, and I was really not expecting to learn that they rewrote Okabe's memories with 2011 memories and how everything that's happened he's actually already relived. Like, this was just, holy hell, this was an episode to say the least, and it was goddamn great. I love how they started off, because just know this episode is going to be serious when it just immediately kicks off, the music is playing, you're hearing some just amazing score pieces. You're literally just seeing the world, and it feels like you're seeing it through Okabe's eyes. You're kind of nervous and just freaked out the same way Okabe is when he sees just the shattered buildings. He doesn't know what the hell's going on, he knows something is off, and I love how the way it's directed, it matches how Okabe was feeling in that scene. I really like just seeing how all the characters were kind of presented. I mean, I was not expecting Daru to look as damn good as he looked in this episode, but you know what? The dude slimmed down? That dude's definitely a ladies' man now. I really like just seeing how this was presented overall. Like, seeing just Okabe have to kind of come to terms with where he's at. Clearly shit went wrong. He's learning kind of like what happened to his memories. He was tortured so much that he was pretty much dead by all things considered until the memories of 2011 were put into his mind. What I like with having Okabe have to kind of come to terms with his current world line is we know that Mayuri is a big push on why he attempts to try to save Kurisu after the failed attempt the first time in the Alpha World line, but it's clear he needed more of a push. This dude was still convinced that he was just accepting the kind of world line that he was dealt with. He had the warning, Suzuha constantly said what can happen if this is the worst world line, but to actually have him see what the worst world line is firsthand, the amount of death and carnage that has happened, it's no longer just Kurisu or Mayuri, he had to see Ruka get killed. Ruka was a badass in this episode, finally got down that sword style and just the guns. Everything about that was just amazing, but to see actually Ruka's death in this world line and in this part of the future, like, that was actually incredibly emotional. Ruka is a character I've always really enjoyed, but the reason it was such impactful is because it was such a wake-up call. Like, Okabe's seen death, he's seen Mayuri seemingly die with that explosion after trying to time jump, but to actually have to hold one of his closest friends in his arms as they die, there's no harder thing to witness than that. Gunshots in the stomach, like, that's completely him blaming himself, like, because I gave up, I have to deal with all this blood on my hands. And I just like how they dealt with that, because it was so damn emotional. I wasn't expecting how emotional this episode would be, and I thought it was emotional from the very first minute, more or less. Seeing Okabe run through the streets and then seeing the death and carnage that has happened. But it also gave you this sense of hope. I really liked that, because Steins is good at shattering mentalities, making you kind of feel just very off-putting and very upset, but at the same time, there's always a sense of hope. With this episode, by the end, Okabe says, we still got that time leap machine, and as the characters are reacting, you're just like, holy hell. The mad scientist is back. This boy, we don't know exactly how crazy he's going, but he's clearly going to go back to probably where we were at around episode 19 or something like that. Maybe he'll go completely different, but building up to it, even though Okabe was clearly seeing things in such a horrible perspective, you're looking at Daru. Daru didn't really strike you as like a guy who was given up. He still had a sense of hope. He was still trying. Maho was still trying. There were so many characters still trying, even though Okabe was just confused, kind of phased by like what the hell is going on. There was still that sense of hope, and by the time when the episode's wrapping up, you really feel inspired, like, oh my god, the mad scientist is back. Like, everyone's waiting for it, but there's a reason we had to wait for this, and I'm so happy we got it in the way we did. Like, this episode, you know, it even did solid action. If we remember back on the rooftop scene where basically, you know, Suzuha was kind of jumping around, I didn't like the action in that. It felt a little too supernatural. But here, the action was more tactical and it was a lot more simplified. It was characters behind covering, shooting, taking cover, they were getting shot at, and even Ruka, when Ruka was using the sword, it didn't feel completely supernatural, more of a samurai fighting. And I like how they actually detailed that, because this is the type of action that can work really well. When they keep it simple, when they don't try to overblow it and make it feel completely supernatural, but just do solid directing. It doesn't have to be super flashy animation. Like, having soldiers behind cover shooting at each other, that's good. That's solid. That makes the viewer understand, okay, this feels believable and grounded. Having Ruka be the little bit more of the badass in the moment, it wasn't completely just like, okay, you didn't believe Ruka couldn't do this. Of course, Ruka's the one that Okabe was trying to teach this insane sword style for a while. You believe Ruka could do that, especially if we are so far in the future, 11 years past the last time we saw Ruka. So it makes sense, and I like that. This is an episode that I think is one of the most important in the entire show. It was so damn good. It was emotional. I got a little teary-eyed. I was just like, okay, Ruka's dying. Like, I mean, obviously we're gonna see Ruka again, but still, it's like, it hurt you to see Okabe have to hold Ruka, and just like, he was asking if he was an actual lab member now. Like, you're always a lab member. What are you talking about? This episode was great. Seriously, like, this is one of the best directed episodes, I think. You know, just kicking it off with such a shattered mentality, but then kind of leading up to the mad scientist, that was fantastic. The voice acting was great. I think this is probably the episode with the best use of music in the entire Steins Gate Zero anime. I really like the new and older tracks alike that were presented. I'm really excited to see where episode 21 is going to go, how far back we are going to go, if we're going to go exactly back to 2011, or if we're going to do something different, but clearly, it's nice to see where things are going. I figured we'd at some point have a time skip just to see this, so I'm happy we finally did, but seriously, this was a great episode of Steins Gate Zero. Let me know what you think of the directing, the emotional moments. Like, what did you think of this episode overall? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like, and if you're new, also be sure to subscribe. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.